Today I'm with Tim Runting, who's the Gold Coast convener of what has been traditionally by far most successful Congress in Australia. We get about 2,700 people in 2019 and 2020. And then we faced the last 2 years without it because of COVID. So this is our first comeback, the first major tournament to be done face-to-face in Australia. So Tim, how do you think it went?
Well, I think overall, Peter, it went extremely well. I think the feedback has been wonderful. Everybody has said we had to hold a Congress now rather than later. We had to protect the brand of the Gold Coast Congress. It's important to be able to contribute to that. The wonderful staff that we've got, the people behind the scenes have made it possible. And yes, it was a great success. Great news was no COVID cases, and I think that's a wonderful reflection on everybody that was involved, players, because they followed all the Queensland Health guidelines, the Convention Centre guidelines and the protocols, and it was terrific to see, and everybody loved it. The fact that they can come back, meet old friends, meet new friends, acquaintances, get back to face-to-face bridge, which was wonderful for them.
Tim, you mentioned it's a big organisation, so tell us something about the organisation. I mean, one of the things that struck me was I was watching you set up, and literally you set up a room with this year about, what, 200 tables? Yeah,
this year I think it was about 220, it might have been 230 tables. As you're aware, with those figures from 2019, 2020, we were getting around the 530, 535 tables. So yeah, considerably less than half. But we always knew we were going to be sort of in that sort of area of tables. We were at one stage around December looking at probably around the 350, 300 at least, 320 maybe. But of course when Omicron hit, everything went a bit pear-shaped. We lost a lot of players, and unfortunately they were a little bit wary and a little bit frightened about coming up here, particularly with the unknown factor of at that stage how the borders situation was. And look, as I said, it's hats off to those players that came here, and there was a little bit that unknown factor, not knowing what the borders were going to be at the time, and of course the curve, what stage that was at for Omicron, and of course everything's panned out really, really well.
Now the vastness, we all know that when you first come to Gold Coast, to see the huge room, etc., is absolutely awe-inspiring.
Yes.
Now, Laurie Kelso, your Chief Director for quite a while,
absolutely.
Tells me that he ran this year with about a staff of about 10 directors, for example. How many caddies did you have, roughly?
As I recall, there was only like a handful. Like there was only a couple on today doing the Ivy Dala. So there was probably only 6 or 8 or something like that. And we obviously have about 3 times that amount normally, and in directors as well. And our staff, in total is probably 70 to 80 in a good years. So we've sort of had to cut that back basically by a third almost. It's been tough. But look, Laurie and his team did a wonderful job, as did Matty McManus and his scorers. I mean, I rate Matty and Laurie probably in their field. They're world class.
I think without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And, we wouldn't be able to hold this event without them. And I think what's great with Matty is he just makes it look all so easy. I said, what about if, people get, COVID during the pairs? He said, oh, that I can cater for because, it's pairs. I said, well, what about teams? He said, oh, I've got contingency plans for that as well. So he didn't explain to me what the contingency plans were, but he sort of, always seemed to have everything under control. So it's quite amazing how easy he makes it look.
Look, for any of our international viewers, for example, all our hands are pre-dealt during the year. I think something like 20,000.
Oh, 40,000 in fact.
40,000.
40,000 hands.
But are dealt out in advance.
Yes.
They're hand records for every event.
Every event.
And for many of the events, it's the same hand record across most of the room.
Yes, that's right. Well, in the Series McMahon, which was yesterday, and the novice, those events, they're across the room fairly consistently. But the great thing is, yes, the players, as soon as they walk away from that table towards the entrance, the exit at least, of the hall, they can pick up a record, the hand record of exactly the hands I've just played, Of course, every different session, that's all colour-coded, so that they know which round 3, 4, 5, etc. So I think we're probably one of the few to be actually that do that because of the system we have in place. We're able to achieve that, and of course earlier on in the week when we've got the Bobby Richmond pairs, we do that of course across the field for them as well, and in the teams. So it's this consistency that players have come to know and understand, and for them it's sort of a no-brainer. They just pick it up on the way out, and then their team, if they're in a team, get together and discuss their hands or pairs. So no, it's great.
I think the other thing about that is of interest perhaps to some internationals is that we play a barometer system on our pairs.
Yes.
So across the room everybody's playing the same hands at the same time.
Yes.
And there's big screens around the room.
Yes.
So that everybody can see progressively where you are. Now that's perhaps not so good for half the field, but
Yes.
for the top half of the field they probably feel happy about that.
Well, I can tell you a story on that, Paul. A few years ago I was playing in the intermediate, and my partner and myself were coming first. It was like 3 hands to play, and opponents bid a 6 diamonds, and I think we dropped about 8th or 9th because no one else in the field bid it. And you've got this sort of maybe this bit of pressure looking up and saying, "Oh, look where I'm coming." So you have to try and put your mind out of that. But you're right; it is still a good thing to be able to have this barometer system, so you know exactly where you're coming. And you're right; it's across the field, and we've got great big screens, and it doesn't matter if you're a novice or an open player; you can see exactly where you're coming.
Look, I think you've just hit on another point that's really important about this Congress, is that it is at all levels.
Yes.
Right, so you can be an absolute beginner, your first year of bridge, you can come to surface, have a wonderful week. I mean, the hotels, the restaurants, the facilities are absolutely extraordinary, certainly by far the best in Australia.
Yes.
Right, and you can enjoy that from the lower level down. And if you're an inexperienced person, you'll be playing against other people who are inexperienced as well.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we had some players who came up to me and said they've got nil master points. So they haven't got 1 master point, and they're playing in the under 10 rookies, and that's a sort of event we organised probably 5-6 years ago, and we're always encouraging this no fear bridge for newcomers to come in and play, and they can play, as you say, against players of the same ability. And then we then have the under 50. We have different, a Swiss and a match point event, and then we have the novice under 100. Then we go to the restricted under 300, and then the intermediate at 750, and of course we introduced a new level, the 1500 in the team. So, and then the open, of course, after that. So over the years we've progressively looked at the stages of development of players and how we can help them along in their growth, and that's very important with the rookies.
The other thing is the team you have in the office. Right now, Kim Alloway is your floor manager, if you like, is
QBA manager.
QBA manager, right? And she's been doing that. Her and her husband Ray have been doing that for
around 25 years, I think, off the top of my head. Or certainly in that area of time. So it's amazing how long they've been doing it.
And that's why it's such a slick operation as well. And there's a big support staff that you've got here, right? With Tony Barden, for example,
and Pele Rankin.
Pele Rankin, one of our top women players in Australia, who is looking after people all the time, which is lovely.
Yes.
And one of the things that's perhaps unique to us versus America is that basically all our entries are made in advance and paid for in advance.
Correct. Yes.
So we know exactly how many tables we're going to have and how many hand records we need, all those sorts of things. We don't allow this last minute walk in or even a half an hour, I believe, in some international events, that you can be half an hour late and still start and be added on the end.
That's it.
So, there's a lot of discipline, and you know what? Everybody's very happy with that. It's not a problem. And even the professionals, they have to sort out who their clients are going to be in advance.
Correct. Right? That's right. And it's interesting mentioning with what Pele did. And I mean, this year we had an additional challenge with the MyABF, the entries. And so that was...
just tell people what MyABF...
So MyABF is a system. Julian, one of the ABF executive members there, he developed a software program, and he put it together so that it's basically a way that anybody can, within Australia, They've got a dashboard, and from that dashboard they can then click on a congress, they can click on credit, so payment version. They can also look at their master points. There's a number of different aspects from the dashboard that they can work from, and they can also select their partner or their partner or teammates, and when they're putting together a team. And it takes a little bit to get used to with I suppose with the demographic, I suppose the older demographic that we're operating within. But a lot of people have come to get a good understanding, good feel for it. But Pele did a wonderful job, and it was a lot of work for the amount of emails we got and people guiding them how to actually use their MyABF, how to enter, how to register. Very important. You have to register before you can use it. There's a lot of great aspects. I can see with the future going on how it can be that will be so beneficial for bridge players across Australia.
Look, traditionally this time of the year is very warm in surface. We have lots of sunshine. Had a bit of extra rain this year.
Extra rain, yes.
But we were a bit lucky. We escaped what most of Queensland seemed to get. We just had a few downpours. But outside of that, the fact of life is, Tim, I think you run a fantastic congress here. It's one of the leading congresses in the world. We know the international players who normally come here.
Yes.
We normally get about 240 New Zealanders, for example, and I think this year there was 2 because of the COVID restrictions on getting into Australia.
That's it.
We normally have about 25 to 30 international players from America and from England, and of course that was cut right back. But I do notice that one of our international players in the teams event made it to the semi-finals before getting knocked out.
Yes.
So, we want people to come here from around the world. We can guarantee you it's a great week.
Absolutely. Rick Rhoda made it here, and people like Danny and Joanne Sprung have been here, and they write it up on Bridge Winners, and Rick said he'd promised me he'd write something as well. But yes, you're right. I mean, we've always been fortunate to have great players come from the US and from Europe and England, of course. This year wasn't to be, and New Zealand, of course, and even some of the other states like WA, where they couldn't come out at all, really. So we have been blessed over the years. The good news is that next year we're going to be looking at around about 420 tables. We won't get back to our full amount. We don't have that the hall's capacity to do that yet, but we're hoping the following year we'll be able to, the 62nd by then, we'll be able to get back to that sort of 530, 550 table sort of amount, and of course everybody coming in as well. So we're really looking forward to it.
Look, Tim, I'm sure both Australians and international people will be looking forward for 12 months that can't come quick enough for us. So thank you very much for today.
Peter, thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you.